All right. Hey, welcome on into the MLB Hot Stove Happy Hour on this beautiful Wednesday night. Ryan Ripken show. We got a jam-packed show, and I apologize. I'm the one that was running a little bit behind schedule. Hey, guilty as charged here. But our conductor of the ship tonight is, well, obviously it could be Zach and I, because Zach and I would probably be more tame. But the one that's conducting our burners to make sure the stove doesn't get too hot, the one that is enjoying his happy hour snack, Mr. Rocco DeSangrio.
Well, you tell me to mix in a salad all the time, mix it in a salad. Got a little Caesar right here, trying to watch the weight. It is cutting season, despite what I tell you all the time, Rip. So cutting season paid off for this guy right here. So, maybe it'll pay off for me. And if you want this autograph picture, be sure to like and subscribe to Ryan Ripken Show. And we'll see what we can do about getting them for you. Double time here on the Hot Stove Happy Hour. Presented by the Ryan Ripken
Steal that
Show.
from my car?
I don't know. Anyway, we're going to jump. We got a great show in store for you. A lot is happening in the baseball world right now as the offseason seems like it's slowing down. It's really not. It's heating up. And spring training is right around the corner. Ravens fans, I know you're more happy about that than anybody right now, but something to look forward to. I'm just saying, man, tough out. But a lot to talk about. Hall of Fame inductees have been announced. 3 guys that are very well deserving got in: Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, and Ichiro, the man who goes by one name. Unbelievable. The Blue Jays, they finally got somebody, and it happened to be a former Baltimore Oriole. So bittersweet right here in Birdland, but life goes on for both sides. Roki Sasaki ends up signing with the Dodgers. We knew he was going to go to a West Coast team, but it had to be that team. And it's unfortunate for the rest of baseball fans across the globe. It's devastating to see Roki Sasaki go to LA, because right now they are the enemy of all other baseball teams in Major League Baseball. And last but not least, we're talking Max Scherzer and other big names, where they may end up, what the rest of this offseason is going to look like, and how those rosters are starting to shape up ahead of spring training. All that and more coming up on the Hot Stove Happy Hour, presented by the Ryan Ripken Show. The first topic, obviously the biggest topic of the night, guys. Billy Wagner and CC Sabathia, they get in. Ichiro, we sat here on the show and said, okay, is Ichiro unanimous? 3, 2, 1. We all said yes. We came to a unanimous agreement that this guy 100% should be in the Hall of Fame. One guy's done it in history. It's Mariano Rivera. Ichiro just misses out by 1 vote, as did Derek Jeter. But before we talk about that, we're going to listen to what Ken Rosenthal had to say about Ichiro not being 100% on the ballot, what that kind of means for baseball, and then we'll react out of the break.
Oh, the one voter. Should fans get to know who the one voter is? And what's your reaction to the single voter that did not vote for Ichiro?
Eric, I'm glad you asked this, and I have strong feelings about it in a number of ways. One, obviously, it goes without saying that it's ridiculous that even one voter did not vote for Ichiro. Whether it's a man, a woman, whoever it might have been, I'd like to hear the justification for that. There is no justification. The only logic, if you want to even call it logic, would be, I don't believe in any first ballot Hall of Famers, I guess. I don't understand that, and I don't know if that person would have been voting for Mariano Rivera a couple of years ago, but that part of it obviously is not great. That said, the witch hunt, or the proposed idea of a witch hunt that takes place every year when we have these things, is to me also ridiculous. And when you have a voting body of 394 people and 393 agree, that actually is pretty good. And it speaks to who Ichiro was. Does anyone really think Ichiro is sitting wherever he's sitting today, or hanging out wherever he's hanging out, wondering, man, I wonder who didn't vote for me. I wish it was 100%. It's just not good enough, 99%, 7%. No, I don't think he cares. He shouldn't care. It's ridiculous. And for this discussion to take place every year and kind of take place in a way that I wouldn't say overshadows the voting, but certainly becomes a point of conversation. We all know this is dumb. We all know the person should have voted for Ichiro, but I don't believe Derek Jeter or Ichiro or Cal Ripken, who had 8 votes that he didn't go his way, 8 voters who didn't vote for him. I don't believe those guys are diminished one bit. I don't believe they think they're diminished one bit. And I think the whole conversation gets a little silly.
I'm going to get to the bottom of it on Saturday.
So,
All right.
you heard it. Ken Rosenthal bringing that up. See, I agree with him in a way, and I disagree with him in a way. I don't think it needs to be after the fact. This person just mysteriously reveals themselves. I think that the people who vote, there should just be a list, and you see it and it comes out, because maybe if that were the case, this person would be less inclined to just be that guy that says, oh, yeah, you know what? Ichiro's not deserving to be on my ballot. I don't believe in unanimous as when it comes to the Hall of Fame. I'm not going to vote for him. Or maybe he stiffed me in an interview. Or maybe he did this or that. It's like that I don't understand. But if you put the face to the name and there's some accountability there, I think people won't be scared to not vote for Ichiro. But it's like we all watch the same Ichiro play baseball, and we all can agree that he should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think there's anybody in this chat or just out there that is a fan of the game or knows sports that is like, oh, yeah, Ichiro, not a Hall of Famer, man. We're not putting him in. So to that point, that's why I feel like people are so pissed off, because why didn't you vote for the guy? Like, what was the reasoning? And I would absolutely love to hear that person's reasoning as to why. Explain it to us. Help us understand why Ichiro doesn't deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, in your opinion. You know what? I'll sit back and wait and listen, but it's not going to happen, because that person is probably going to continue to do this until the end of time. So I don't know if we're going to get another unanimous person in the Hall of Fame. We may not, but it remains to be seen, guys.
So I think, first off, Ichiro, Beast, CC Sabathia, Billy Wagner, I'm really happy for Billy waiting for that call. Like, these guys, not all of them get that first chance. They're on the ballot and they get it. Some guys have had to wait for it, and the emotion of that. But as far as for Ichiro, it's just one of those things when you can sit there and look at the game personally and you go, does that make sense that is he one of the best baseball players of his time? And if you witnessed Ichiro for a 10-year period straight, he was. And then if you want to look at his entire career, you go, yeah, he no doubt should be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, that's just a personal eye test. I think, Rock, where it kind of goes to this is that each writer has a different view of players, and they can say there's no bias to it, but there's 1,000% bias to it. Ken brought up my dad, Calvin Edwin Ripken Jr., and brought up the sense of, 8 voters wouldn't think that Cal was a first ballot Hall of Famer. Well, some writers I know during that time didn't vote for my dad because he played in the steroid era. Like, that was their reasoning of saying he played in the era. Not because he did steroids, not because of that. He played in that era, so therefore I won't vote for that player. So you can see what I'm saying. There's a bias to it. Everybody has it. You want to look at the NFL and like Terrell Owens, when it took a while. Terrell Owens, numbers-wise, statistics, one of the best reasons. The bias was that people maybe were going, well, off the field or personality for Terrell Owens. He wasn't voted in to the Football Hall of Fame, and he could have been a first ballot. And I think, Zach, I think we're in agreement on this. I mean, look, everyone has the right to their vote. Nothing's, I have no problem. And you're right. None of those guys are sitting there going, especially each year going, damn, who is that guy? Who is that? I don't think that it's going to keep them up at night because you reached all of your goals as a player. Ichiro transformed the game. Like, the Hall of Fame is the final cherry on top of what Ichiro did, which was change how Japanese baseball players are looked at, came over, revolutionized the sport, became one of the best, and paved the way for future players. That has more impact than one writer leaving him off. But on top of it, he was one hell of a player, Zach, that I would have loved to see get it. But that is just the reality. Not all writers are kind of biased. And maybe, Zach, I know you have your point. I have another thought with this, so I'll let you explain. And then I have one more thing I want to add for you and Rock.
Yeah, did Ichiro deserve to be unanimous? Without a doubt, 100%. He should have gotten every single vote. Am I surprised he wasn't? Absolutely not, because it's once again, kind of like Ken Rosenthal alluded to, we see this crap every single year with Major League Baseball Hall of Fame voting. I don't know what it is about Major League Baseball voters, but there is this group that it's the most one of the most disappointing aspects of our game is that there is genuinely a group of people who vote, who there was someone who didn't vote for Ichiro because, like Ken said, because they feel, oh, no one deserves to be first ballot, or, oh, if so-and-so wasn't unanimous, well, I'm making sure this guy isn't. I don't know what kind of crap has led to this in baseball, but like you said, Rip, there were people who didn't vote for Cal solely because of the era he played in, not because he participated, but because of the era. I don't know what this like pretentiousness is around some of these voters that think that they are like God. And they're like, nope, I have the power to make sure because this person did this or he was around during this. I don't want him to be up there with Mariano. I don't want him to be in this class by himself. And it's just annoying. Like, that's the biggest thing. Am I mad at the voter for not voting for Ichiro? No. Like you said, Rip, Ichiro could care less, I bet. Could genuinely care less. But it's just annoying that we sit here every year and you're like, oh, here's this one of the greatest players of all time, easily should get every vote. But there's just this group that's like, not so fast. They are a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I'm going to make sure they're not unanimous because of some weird agenda that I'm trying to push. And it's just frustrating and annoying. It's not surprising. It's annoying.
And Rock, this is the part I wanted to bring up next then, because Chipper Jones set out in a tweet, right? Because Andrew Jones didn't get in. And Chipper Jones's tweet, if I pulled that up, here it is, share the screen. And again, this is just, of course, there's going to be some bias with it, but Chipper Jones, if you can read that, I want to ask all Hall of Fame voters one question. If Andrew Jones plays for the Yankees for 15 years, 10 gold gloves, 400 home runs, 1,300 RBIs, is he a Hall of Famer? Let me answer that for you first ballot. Time to have a conversation about Hall of Famers chiming in. 75 living members can make sure it's right. I do think that there should be a value of players that played the game and can sit there and speak on who they thought were the great ones, because the great ones will tell you right to their face, yep, that was one of the best players I've ever seen. And Rock, I think that's where when it's not the principle that everyone has their own vote. I think it's more so of the reasonings behind sometimes go more than just the black and white of, was he a good player? Did he do something so brutal off the field? Because let's be honest, that goes into the account. Hence, like Pete Rose, right? Like the whole Pete Rose gambling. But did they do something that hindered themselves on the field? Or did they piss off a writer that didn't like them and always had a situation moving forward?
Yeah. It could be people still hold grudges against people from high school and they're 50 years old. There are definitely sports writers out there that hold grudges against players that stiffed them for an interview or, said the wrong thing or didn't give them the response they wanted or didn't say thank you or, it's everything. And I'm not speaking for all baseball writers. The majority, especially within the Orioles organization, who I dealt with time and time again, are very, very good people and they're very good at their jobs. And I really can't see that happening within that organization. But doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that act that way or view things that way. So yeah, Rip, you're right. For one reason or another, it's not for the play on the field. And I don't know what the case was here, but he should have been 100%. It is what it is. He's in. Happy for Ichiro. It was awesome watching him play. And, there are kids growing up all over the globe, not just in Japan, not just in the United States, everywhere that emulate, that really enjoy this guy, just who he is, what he did for the game. And he's a global sensation, man. I mean, it's great to see him get in. And the other two guys, CC Sabathia, grew up watching him. I know you guys did too. It's awesome. It's awesome. Orioles fans, I know you can say what you want. He was a Yankee. is really damn good on the Yankees. But the fact that he got in, he's deserving. Another guy, underrated for, I don't want to say underrated because Billy Wagner has the accolades and he's well deserving, but a guy that I feel like is not talked about among the best closers. You have your Riveras, you have your Hoffmans, you have other guys on that list, and Billy Wagner was phenomenal. I don't know how many guys you grew up playing ball with who like tried to model their game after Billy Wagner, but I had a kid I played with in Little League, and I'll never forget this. Like 11 or 12-year-old travel team that was like, he called himself Wags because he's like, this is who I want to model my game after. How many kids do you remember growing up wanted to model their game after Billy Wagner? He was a beast, but like it was like, oh, Gary Sheffield with the bat, Derek Jeter, how he hits, like, you know, Griffey, Billy Wagner, not really, but this kid loved him. And it's like to see Billy Wagner get in, a guy that gave his heart and soul to the game. And one of the guys that I remember just throwing absolute heat growing up, like touching 100, 101, whatever he did, like he threw absolute gas. Well deserving for him as well. So it's really great to see the group that did get in and that will be enshrined. It's awesome for the game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, we could have a full conversation with all of their accolades, but regardless, you're right. At the end of the day, it's being remembered. And if it takes 1 year or it takes however many years for you to get in, those players are going to hold on that you're going into immortality in Cooperstown as you move forward. So it was really great to see. And yeah, a lot more to talk about. Maybe we'll have a chance to ask maybe a couple of those people in the future what they think about their situation.
Well, listen, I know 100% of Birdland, not 99.7%. This one hurts. And it's our second burner, and it's Anthony Santander staying in the AL East, going to the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays finally signed someone, people. They did it. And on top of that, it was probably from all the bad things I was saying about how they can never sign anybody, how they're, you know, always in the mix, but they never end up like locking someone down. Like it's Anthony Santander is a Toronto Blue Jay. It's going to be weird to see. Don't know if blue is his color, but congratulations to Tony, because what did he get? It was a 5-year, $90 million deal. Correct me if I'm wrong. He gets paid. A former Rule 5 pick ends up getting a 5-year, $90 million. So like Tony, his growth, his career, hitting 40+ home runs last year for the O's, incredible. And just not only an unbelievable talent, but a great person as well. And while we're on the topic talking about Tony, listen, Baltimore loves that guy, and he loves Baltimore. Take a listen to what he had to say in his introductory press conference with the Toronto Blue Jays.
Emotions, and I'm so thankful for Baltimore because it was the organization who gave me the opportunity to show up as a player. I mean, just hitting my first base hit, my first play, my first homers, going to the playoffs is something that's gonna be in my head. But now we are at Toronto Blue Jays. It's time to go and face them and beat some games.
So Zach,
Go ahead, Rip.
No, I was going to say, Zach, you always like to tweet out. I'll let you start off the conversation with Tony here. You know, if I know no matter what, Tony's got me. That was
If
the
nobody got me, I know Tony got me.
Pull it up.
Amen.
Pull it up.
And again, amen. Yeah, this sucks. Just it's one of those things where I'd come to terms with Tony was not returning to Baltimore. You know, we had talked before. You know, we had thrown out teams like you know very early on. You know, could the Yankees grab him? Toronto was always in the mix. We had brought up Houston. It felt like maybe the Angels were in play at times. But it sucks even more when you see him walking around in Toronto. You see him in the press conference wearing the Blue Jay stuff, sending the thank yous to Baltimore. But, you know, as much as it sucks from a fan's perspective, from the business side of this deal, it's probably what was best for Baltimore. 5-year commitment to a corner outfielder with all the depth that the Orioles have in the outfield, it just didn't make sense. So extremely happy for Tony and his family. I mean, that's first and foremost. he earned every penny that he got from, Rock, you talked about being a Rule 5 draft pick, coming all the way up to being an all-star Silver Slugger. He earned it. Will not be rooting for him, unfortunately, Tony, when you come against Baltimore. So that's just that won't happen. But the other games, I hope Toronto loses, but I hope you bat 300 with 125 RBIs. So,
yeah, I mean, as you can say with all of it, right? You can look at all the reasons why he should have stayed in Baltimore, why he shouldn't have. The reality is, for a player like Tony, he was able to cash in and get commitment. That's what players want at the end of the day. The Blue Jays were willing to give him that commitment that secures his future, and really the story of it, being a Rule 5 guy, coming to the Orioles, going through the tough years, the lean years, and then coming on the other side to be the most productive bat for the Birds the last 3 seasons, becoming a fan favorite. It stings. It stings when you feel like you see a guy like that go, and that's what hurts me with the Orioles in that sense. But that is that business side of it. Now he goes somewhere else, and it's going to feel real awkward when he comes to play against Baltimore. But to your point, Zach, you got to live with certain decisions. And Tony Taters very well could have another 30-plus home run season. He could have 2 more in those in the repertoire, or things go the other way. We really don't know. But what we do know is he's joining a team with the Blue Jays who I still think, and I said it earlier in the week, I don't think this move puts the Blue Jays over the top. But I am curious if they do get one more bat, that lineup with Bichette, Guerrero Jr., Santander, and maybe they're trying to link some other guys to there. Gets interesting. But nothing but for the best for Tony, man. It's he's earned every bit of his contract. And I hope the best for him as he goes up to Canada, and he definitely will become a fan favorite there too.
Absolutely. And if you can, drop some of your favorite Tony Taters memories in there, your favorite, what it was, and we'll react to it on the other side. But yeah, it's not only the player Rip and him hitting 40-plus home runs and him being the power bat that the O's needed in clutch situations, but again, the type of person he was. And I remember hearing your story about him on 3-0 Take, just about him being late to opening day. And like, that was Tony and just like being ready though, and being good to go. And like, you can touch on that story more, but it's how good of a person he was, how he treated people, and like the relationship you saw with Q, Brandon Quinones, about, who translates for the Orioles and was there with him side by side through the big memories. And Tony, I feel like his English got better over the years, and he didn't need Q translating for him, but Q was there by his side regardless. And it was that relationship that they built. So shout out to Tony. I know Q's going to miss him. I know Tony's going to miss him. But thank you for the memories for this franchise and being there for, the good times, but a ton of the bad times as well. And being like the bright spot that the fan base could turn to and root for, So again, I know O's fans aren't going to root for him when he's playing for the Blue Jays, but when he comes back here, damn well he's going to be getting a standing ovation. So really cool to see. Great guy, a great baseball player, and wishing him nothing but the best in Toronto.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So he is outpriced in Baltimore, which kind of, before we get into the next burner, like, speaking of prices, some would say in the past the price was wrong. Some would say now in Baltimore from Camden Yards, Rock, the price is right.
Yeah, we're bringing up we're talking about that new menu that the O's basically unveiled today. We know Tony Taters will not be on the menu. They're not going to have any of them. They had an opportunity to do so if they would have brought him back. But this is what you're looking at. It's a value menu, people. How about this? Gotta love it. For the fans, an all-beef hot dog, $4 on this Birdland value menu. Pretzel bites with cheese, $4. Cinnamon pretzel bites with cream cheese icing. That is fire right there. $4. Messy, but fire. Nacho chips and cheese, $4. Popcorn, $3.50. Peanuts. Get your peanuts for $2.50. Packaged dessert. I'm imagining like a cake wrapped in like plastic probably or something, but I could be wrong. That is $3. And then your drinks, refillable soda cup for $4. How about that? We're loving it. Bottled water, $4. Non-alcoholic beer, $5. Select beers. Maybe that's your Bose. They selling them in Camden Yards again? $5. Who knows? And then 12-ounce seltzers for $6. That is what we want to see ahead of the season. Listen, I know baseball fans, you want to see moves, and obviously we're hoping those happen, but this is a nice consolation prize, I guess, right now, seeing the prices of the value menu, and it's affordable. So love that, Rip. I loved your tweet. With $15, what are you going to spend there? I said a hot dog and 2 beers. You dropped yours. Zach, what would yours be? Like, we need to hear from you guys. And in the chat, let us know what you would do with $15 on this value menu as well.
Oh, that's tough. I feel like I got to get peanuts in there somewhere. I got to toss some peanuts in there somewhere. I'll go peanuts. Give me a select beer. So what am I saying? At $7.50, we're halfway there. Give me a hot dog, $11.50. Oh, then give me the popcorn, and boom, we're $15. God, I just killed that. I just absolutely killed that. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
Rip?
I mean,
That was nice.
look, during the week, it's mixing in a water, right?
Yeah, maybe
you
go
have
for the
to mix in the
refillable
water.
soda cup.
Dude, that warehouse dog was like $15 in itself last year when we tried it. I
It was
think
like 22,
Yeah.
and it was.
I mean, look, the specialty items around the stadium are phenomenal, right? Like you get the warehouse dog, you go to Stuggies, you get some crab sandwiches, you go and do whatever, right? It's great. But for everyone coming to a game, that was a big part of it is, man, like prices are a lot. If you bring a family and they're hungry, it gets expensive. And also, if you're just going there because you're an avid Orioles fan, like this is, you could get for $15 or even for a meal that's different than if you go to Chipotle or whatever you like to go to, right? The pricing has changed so dramatically, but I do love that. I know that people are saying about ownership and being cheap and all this. Like, look, this is them dropping prices is not the reason why the Orioles didn't sign Corbin Burnes or Anthony Santander. Like, can I just say that for a second, real quickly? Like, do we really? I see some comments. Do we really think the value menu and doing this for fans, or didn't they raise the prices on other things? By the way, was that like for tickets and whatnot?
I was saying it was a consolation prize in a joking way. Like I don't mean like, oh, if they don't sign Corbin Burnes, just drop the value menu and that's going to make fans happy. Absolutely not. But like,
but I think I know some people. I just want to clarify this. This is not the reason.
No.
I just think for families and trying to get more people to want to come to the game, because even with the Orioles' success the last 2 seasons, it becomes expensive to bring people to the game. And it's not just the Orioles. This is throughout sports. It's a conversation of making it better for a fan experience. This makes it more affordable, which I love. And people that some people didn't know that, like, I will eat a plain dog. Well, then you must be new to the channel. If you are, hit that like and subscribe button. But I'm not the biggest condiment guy. So a plain dog to me, it's pretty good.
And
Just saying.
He used to get the skin cut off his hot dogs when he was younger. And
when I was a kid.
Well, I could see that happening now. But you never know. I don't know. I just, some of the things you do just question, I question it and I still question it.
Okay, time out. You want to talk about things that you want to question me on.
Yes.
And we don't want to talk about your behavior.
Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Say what you want to say, tough guy. You already told me to go F myself after the Ravens game.
No, that was pre-game. It was before the game.
Well,
Big
okay.
difference.
Yeah, exactly.
But you know what? That attitude actually, Rock, that's how a lot of people feel about in burner number 3 with the team we're going to talk about.
No,
where
nice
they're like, you got to be kidding me with what's going on here. Before we do that, by the way, I did want to point out Sean for being a member for 9 months. Thank you, Sean. And if you're looking to be a member of the channel, hit that subscribe button. You can be a good kid or a Holy Shirts and Pants member. We're going to have a lot more content as we move into baseball season, and our football season isn't done yet. We will have the Ryan Ripken Show live tomorrow, Thursday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It's our normal scheduled showtime. But Sean says we still have multiple players on rookie contracts and more coming, and owners haven't owned the team a year. Spending will come. It is good context. Think about it from the business side. Katie Griggs, as far as on the business side of it coming in, was hired in August, September. I think give it a year plus, and see where things are as an organization before we're quick to make a judgment on what the new ownership is going to do. I think there's too many moving parts here, especially when you do have a young nucleus. And by the way, the team is going to go as far as the young core. I don't care who else it's signed. They have to develop, and if they don't develop, nothing else is going to matter. But what does matter, Rock, going back to it, is that everyone is just kind of ticked off with the Dodgers. I'm not ticked off with the Dodgers, but a lot of people are, and that kind of leads into because a certain player from Japan, third one now in 2 years, is a Los Angeles Dodger and Roki Sasaki.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not ticked off about the Dodgers. They just continue to spend it. I mean, does piss a lot of baseball fans off because it's just like they keep loading up and they're showing no signs of stopping. Like, this is an insane offseason for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And now landing Roki Sasaki, what's going to be next? They get Kirby Yates. It's just like they keep going and they're not stopping. And it's like, when is this going to end? And every time they do it, I just think of Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. Like, he can't keep getting away with this. They cannot keep getting away with this. And for more on the Dodgers and just like what they're doing and their insane spending, Ken Rosenthal weighs in on the team out west, the defending World Series champs.
Article about the Dodgers situation, because we haven't had you on since they signed 8 more players. So can you summarize or at least give a few points on what you said in your article in The Athletic? And I'm sure there were some fun comments going back at you.
Well, basically what I said was that every fan would want his or her team to operate the way the Dodgers are operating. And that while the Dodgers have immense financial advantages, there's no question about that, other teams should compete with the same passion to the best of their capabilities. Obviously, we know the Pittsburgh Pirates can't do what the Dodgers do. And I mentioned that, hey, there's going to be talk of a salary cap. There always is. And the fact of the matter is, if we're talking strictly about competitive balance, those leagues with caps, the NFL, the NBA, they don't have what baseball has. We haven't had a repeat champion since 1998 to 2000 with the Yankees. In the NFL, it's Mahomes or Brady in the AFC Championship game every year for like the last 15 years. So if you're talking about financial fairness, different question. And that is a question that continues to kind of haunt the game because the disparity between the haves and the have-nots just keeps increasing. But my basic premise here was, let's see more teams really try to the best of their capabilities before we have these massive complaints about the Dodgers. And the other thing is, guys, and you guys know this, it's baseball. There's no guarantee the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. The expanded playoffs have made it more difficult for teams to win the series. Can you estimate or predict that the Dodgers will win the NL West? Yeah, you probably can do that. That's been the case for a number of years now. So I understand the concern and the frustration among some fans, but at the same time, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning of that article. You wish your owner was acting the way the Dodgers owner was acting within his means.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you wish your owner was acting how the Dodgers are acting, but it doesn't like make this any better what is happening to baseball right now, guys. This isn't like you think back to the, I guess, early 2000s, like late 90s, early 2000s, when the Yankees were just buying every player possible. And that was the thing. Oh, Yankees are spending. They got a lot, like what money could buy, the Yankees were buying at that point in time. And it was every single player, it seemed like when they were getting good, they got better. When they were getting better, they got even better than that because of what they spent. And it sucked for the rest of baseball because you had to sit back and watch and just complain. That's how it is. With the Dodgers, they took it to another level. Like you think of the Steinbrenner Yankees, okay, they spent money. The Dodgers are spending money and then some. and deferring it. And I'm not saying other teams haven't done that, but it's just insane what is happening with baseball right now. And yeah, you could say, oh yeah, you wish your team was the Dodgers, this and that. Sure. Wish my owner could, figure out how to get every single player in the baseball universe and get them to play for my team. But it's just not the case. And if you're looking at this from an outside perspective, looking in, is this fair for baseball? Is this good for baseball? Because I sure as hell don't think so. But I'm not going to sit here and complain because you know what? The rules are the rules, and the Dodgers are doing whatever they can to win. Sucks, but it is what it is.
Yeah, Zach. The Dodgers are doing what no other team is doing, right? Like they are choosing to do that. It does help when you take over the international market, specifically in Japan. It does help that you have those players are all friendly, but also we're talking about big markets and revenue opportunities. Being able to capitalize on that is massive. They're in a huge city already. I don't blame the Dodgers at all for what they've done, for how they've done it. But I think the bigger thing is it's gonna have to lead to either other teams starting a trend of what can become to an extent, or MLB is going to have to step in and create some parameters around at what point do you have to cut off certain things? Because right now the thing too, Zach and Rock, it's only one team that's doing this.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy part. It'd be one thing to be like, hey, we got to stop from teams manipulating. Only one team is willing to do this at the moment to the extent that LA is. So that's where I'm kind of stuck of when MLB and if MLB will, because we haven't seen that trend just yet. But Zach, it just feels evident that something's got to give here, whether other teams get into this type of business or there's parameters they're going to have to be set in for guidelines as we move further into, the MLB seasons past 2025 and 2026.
If I am Fred Manfred, I am terrified of the Dodgers dominating this year. That is the worst case scenario for baseball. Or Rob Manfred. Manfred. If I'm Rob Manfred,
Who's Fred Manfred?
I am terrified. Because if the Dodgers go and win 120 games, if they go, maybe they lose a game this series, lose a game that series, but they just go through and win the World Series, it is going to be the worst outcome possible for baseball. Now, if there's competitive series with the Padres in there, if you have some all-time classics, that's one thing. But if this is a dominant year for the Dodgers, it is going to hurt Major League Baseball. Because at this moment, they're right. We have seen this before where one team is spending so much more than others, and it hasn't worked out. They haven't won. If the Dodgers go out there and lose in the divisional round, if they lose in the NLCS, then we're sitting here and we're going, well, it didn't matter. It's baseball again. Anything can happen. We're back to that point. But if they go down and they just absolutely dominate competition, they're setting all-time records, people are going to get fed up. People aren't going to watch. People are going to be like, why would I care if the Dodgers are just going to go win it every year? Because, Ryan, I think you tweeted earlier, this is one of the craziest off seasons we've seen from one team. And I don't think it's stopping this year. It didn't stop last year. It's not stopping this year. And I don't think it's stopping next year. I think next year, if the Dodgers don't win it or if they do win it, they're going to go try to get the best guys available. So that means if you're the Major League Baseball, if you watch the Dodgers go out and dominate, and then you're sitting there next offseason knowing damn well, hey, they're going to do what you should do. They're going to go try to get the best players. If they just keep doing that, I think this is a major problem for baseball. But it is baseball. Like Ken Rosenthal talked about, we haven't had a repeat champion in over 20 plus years. I disagree with the whole, Brady and Mahomes have been in the, that's all the AFC is. So that, the Astros made 9 straight ALCSs. So we still have that in baseball. But it's going to get to the point where this could be very problematic for baseball if the Dodgers dominate. If they don't, I think this is a no story. I think this is a classic. That's baseball, baby, and we move on. But because they're damn good teams, the Phillies could beat them. The Padres can still beat them. It's baseball. But if they go dominate, I think that's when it gets an issue.
That's the big part is dominance. And the reality is too, like I go back to when I just got into pro ball with the Nationals. And at that point, the Nationals were making all the big moves. Like they had, I think Scherzer just came in and they had Zimmerman. I think it was Jordan Zimmerman. And also then you had Ryan Zimmerman, you had Bryce Harper, you had Jason Worth, and they were the clear-cut World Series favorites. Now, again, it wasn't the spending to that moment, but what happened to a World Series favorite? They didn't even make the playoffs. Now, it would be the biggest, to me, the biggest headline if the Dodgers missed the playoffs with their roster. It's like that would be the biggest failure probably in professional sports if that team stays healthy and they underperform that much. That's a whole different story. But you're right, Zach. It's in any series, best of 5, best of 3, best of 7. Who can dominate over that time? And even this past series for the Dodgers, they don't. Cortez gets Freeman out here. Does that change the complexion of the series? The Dodgers won the little moments, but it wasn't because the Yankees weren't there battling. Dodgers just took care of business. And Rock, I'll let you get the final word here with my last comment about deferred money. For players, I love the deferred money component because when their career's over, that's stability down the road. I know people don't love that, but if I was a player and I could be like, hey, I'm going to take money in X amount of years, give me my money when I'm done. I'll take the majority of it later. Give me some now. And that goes a great thing from Fuzzy there. That's right to the point. What I was just saying. Look at how talented that team is. They were a better team last year, and they didn't have that roster. No Blake Snell, no Lugo.
No Juan Soto.
No Soto. And that Padres team had the Dodgers on the brink of elimination. So it's a great
baseball.
point. It's baseball.
That's life.
Rock.
That's all I got to say. No, it's, yeah. But I don't know, man. It's, you want there to be some consistency. And again, the teams that spend at the end of the day, if you catch lightning in a bottle like the Diamondbacks did 2 years ago, you might be able to get there without one of the biggest salary caps in baseball. But are you going to be able to ultimately win that 7-game series against a team that's as dominating as that? Probably not. I want to see parity. I want to see competitiveness. I don't want to see the same team win every year. And again, Dodgers fans are sitting back and laughing. And if they listen to this, they're probably thinking tough shit. It's like, it's what our team's doing. We're happy. And like the rest of baseball can suffer because of it. But it's not good for the game what's going on right now. And until another team starts to do the same, we'll see. But not every team in baseball is going to have the luxury to be able to do what the Dodgers are doing right now. And it's not level playing field either. So that's all I'll say with that. And hopefully something changes going forward and we get back to where the game should be. And that's a bit more parity.
Yeah, well, last thing I was saying, we're moving the final burner. I do understand spending. Usually the teams with the higher payrolls typically are the playoff teams that are around it or that win it, I guess I should say. But that there is parity in that sense that Zach brought up. There hasn't been a repeat winner. Now, the Dodgers could buck that trend this year, and then that can start a different conversation. But baseball is just a funny game. It's not really funny when you're playing. It's frustrating as hell, just to be honest. But that is what can happen, and I'm really curious what we're going to see. And quite frankly, if you're a player, though, and like Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates, the recent acquisitions that they had, you're damn right. If I'm a free agent, I want to go to a team that's saying, hey, we are putting it all out on the table, and that is appealing. But like we said, or like you said, Rock, not every team is going to do that. And not every team has done that so far. And quite frankly, with all the big names that we've seen that the Dodgers still signed, there's still a ton of big names that are still out there right at this moment as we're less than 3 weeks away from spring training kicking off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But let's move on to the fourth and final burner of this show. And that is the names that are still available out there. Some big names, some former World Series champions, some names that have been linked to the Orioles in the past or have played here in the past. John Heyman is going to weigh in on them. But the one name I want you to keep in mind, that's Max Scherzer. He's going to talk more about him.
A Dodger. Does that include Max Scherzer? Does he want to return to Los Angeles? He's out there.
Well, he wants to win. There's no question about that. I don't know if there's room. Who knows? Nobody expected they're going to be signing Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates as well. But I do think that the Toronto Blue Jays, who have money left over and are still active, they just signed Santander. They are certainly talking to Pete Alonso, and they did have a Zoom call with Scherzer. And, Scherzer's a very frank guy. I know you guys know him as well. And I think he basically told them, look, I want to win. You guys won 74 games last year. Let's see what the roster is, and before I decide what I want to do, because I don't think it's the millions that are going to decide what he wants to do. He wants to go to a winner. And, if they sign Alonso, that's a pretty good middle of the order. I think they underachieved at 74 wins anyway, and they certainly are a contender. So I think Toronto is probably the most likely team for Scherzer at this point.
That's interesting. I don't know that I've heard a lot of those rumblings before this moment. Toronto, and what started out as a sluggish offseason for the Jays, swinging and missing. They land Santander, to your point, and now maybe more on the way. That's interesting news.
Thoughts?
A lot of thoughts.
A lot
of thoughts there. Well, clearly now when we're looking at some of the older pitchers, I would say if you were to tell me that the last veteran and in that category with like the Verlander and even Charlie Morton wasn't the one we expected, but that Scherzer's still sitting there. I am a little bit surprised, but also that maybe shows me, is he looking for the right option or Zach, or do people have some reservations about where he's at? I still think he can play. I think he can help a team. But in your twilight years, you want to try to go and accomplish one more goal, and that is to win a World Series. So, that's where I'm kind of perplexed. And but obviously we're getting into some other names. But, yeah, I am a little shocked here. It's on the 22nd, and he still doesn't have a team that he signed with.
I think he's playing it smart, and I like that they talked about where Scherzer wants to be on a competitor. He wants to win right now, and if it is the Blue Jays that he ends up going to, I'm sure he has the same questions and reservations that we've had, that we've talked about of, hey, they've been super aggressive, but at the same time, they have been shopping Vladdy. They have shown that they are willing to trade some talent to maybe see what happens and go younger, maybe not compete right away. So I think Scherzer, he's saying, hey, if you go get Pete Alonso and you add him to that mix, now we're talking a little more. Now I feel comfortable going there. Kind of what you said, Rip. I'm a little shocked he's the last of that group. I thought, maybe it is injuries, maybe whatever. But if you're a contending team and you can get your hands on Max Scherzer, a bulldog type that is so great to have in a clubhouse, I think it's a welcome addition to any team.
No
doubt about it.
Yeah,
go ahead, Rock.
I'd agree, guys. And it is surprising that Max Scherzer, the guy that had so much success over the years and a guy that has been there, done that, won 2 World Series? I know with the Rangers he was injured for a bit of time, but he's got the experience pitching in the postseason. He's an older guy and a veteran that can help a team. While he is a psychopath, we all know that. That's why he's called Mad Max. You love that fire. You love that energy, especially with how old he is now. Like you need someone to kind of bring that to your rotation, bring that to your staff, and give you some sort of oomph. Like you really do. So it would really surprise me if Scherzer wasn't signed or on a team. before spring training, especially with this, because Rip, you talked about it before. When guys, sorry, salad.
You want to eat? You want to not eat while you're
what
while
are we
you're
doing?
No, I'm all good. Got a nice little Caesar salad here, cutting season. But when you get a late start on spring training and everything, it really sets you back. And for a guy that's older than most, in Max Scherzer, if I'm him, I want to be with the team. That's not to say he wouldn't be working out or, going through what he needs to go through, but that in-game action that you're going to see in spring training is invaluable. It really is. So would surprise me if he's not with the team before spring training or reporting with somebody. And I think that's what Max Scherzer needs, especially going into this season. I don't even know what season this is for him, but again, older guy, tail end of his career, needs to be with the team ahead of that to really get a gauge on this year and have a good season. I don't see this being like a signing where teams wait too long to get him on their roster because it wouldn't make sense at that point.
Well, I just think that you want a guy, unless he's going to a place that he is so familiar with.
Yeah.
You want it, but coming off of a year where it was so injury plagued, you want to make sure he's feeling well and getting right. And I've told you guys about with pitchers getting in there, and we saw last year with Montgomery and Blake Snell. It just, you feel better when you can get on a routine. It's almost, and it's not to the same level of stress, but I would still argue that any player that's still left over here, there is some emphasis of times running out, and it's, you want to know your worth and your value, and that matters. But also, if you're going to a different team, like Pete Alonso is another big bat that's, out there and possibilities of going other places. Alex Bregman is still out there and still hasn't signed with anybody. They're pros. They've been around for a while. But you still want to get to where you're going and get acclimated and get settled and not feel like you have to rush yourself in. But pitchers, it's because of that clock of you can't replicate your game reps. You can still be on the same schedule, but it's hard to get exactly the intensity that you're trying to get. So that's the bigger worry with them. But all players here, I'm glad Tony Tater's got his deal done. He's going to have a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks to get himself. All right, the stress is over. You can decompress for a couple of weeks, and then you can go into the season, spring training, clean slate. I think people underestimate that mental side of you're sitting there waiting for where you're going to end up. I mean, think about it for us guys. We talk about life, work, even personally, my stuff, when you're stressed with something, it weighs on you, even if you know it's going to be okay. So hopefully for these guys, we see some moves. Maybe the Orioles sneak another move in there. Maybe another pitcher. I don't know. I know that
cool.
you're saying
could we see a reunion, Rip? That's a big question. And I know Birdland is, they don't really feel like they're entertaining a reunion right now for former guys that are on the free agent market, right? But it could happen. Who knows? And sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. I don't think the Orioles are in desperation mode just yet. I would hope not. But the options when it comes to free agents are running fairly thin when it comes to starting pitchers. And I see Be More Dubby dropping this in here. What do you guys think they're the top 3 remaining free agent starting pitchers currently? And I would go Jack Flaherty, who I'm surprised hasn't signed with anyone. He's got to be the top option out there when it comes from a starting pitcher sense, just as far as what he could bring to the table when he's on. And was he on here in Baltimore? No. And has that kind of run its course? Maybe. I don't know if Mike Elias has any plans on even bringing Jack Flaherty back, but to me, Flaherty would be one. A guy like Kyle Gibson would be in the top 3 right now, considering what he can bring, the veteran presence. And I know you might be like, Kyle Gibson, he's old. What is he? But Kyle Gibson is so valuable from that standpoint. And I don't know if we're just talking production, but from the veteran leadership standpoint, what he did for the Orioles. And I'm not saying the Orioles are going to go get him either, but he's another guy that I would probably put in the top 3. And then you got a guy like Scherzer. You got a guy that's out there that has been there, done that. And again, up there in age. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. Take a shot for every time. I'm sorry if I seem like ageist, I guess the word would be, like against people who are older, but I'm not. But Scherzer's another guy. So to your point, those three guys I think are three of the top options, I guess, as far as I would go out there on the free agent market right now when it comes to starting pitchers. How about you guys?
Zach?
I'd put in Nick Pivetta as I'd put him up there. But if we go by just last year's WAR win above replacement, the top starting pitchers are Flaherty 1, Kyle Gibson 2, Nick Pivetta, Andrew Heaney, Clayton Kershaw, and then Max Scherzer, Patrick Corbin. So it's a pretty big gap between Jack Flaherty and the rest, just out of WAR. He's a 5 WAR, and Kyle Gibson with a 4 WAR was the next highest, but not a lot of, you're not going to get an ace right now. It looks like, maybe Jack Flaherty is that guy for somebody. Maybe he does continue what he did last year, but it is one of those things where right now you're looking more towards if you want an ace, you're going to have to trade for someone.
Absolutely. And the Orioles still have time to do that, and they absolutely could. And, I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping they can go out and get a bona fide ace and add it to this rotation. And, I don't know who they're going to have to trade, but by all means, if you want to compete with the likes, it's going to be hard to compete with the Dodgers in any sense with the roster they have. But if you're going to compete in the American League, you need that starting rotation that can get you there. And right now, I'm not sure if the Orioles have that. And, I don't think I'm the only one. So go out, get another ace, add him to the rotation. And when you're healthy, when you have a Kyle Bradish that comes back, Grayson Rodriguez has potential to be unbelievable. But we're not basing what we're talking about right now off potential or if a guy's healthy or if he's going to pitch this season. We're basing it off of who's out there now, who can help you win, who can you bring in, and immediately they can be a game changer on the front end of the rotation. And that's the question that remains unseen right now.
Yeah. And kind of wrap that all together, you mentioned Grayson Rodriguez, and you mentioned Kyle Bradish. The Orioles have 2 aces, potential aces. I think Bradish already is an ace. He's got to be healthy.
Great.
But Grayson has the potential to be an ace as well. So in-house, you already can sense that. But the 2 biggest things for their game, for Kyle Bradish, it's health. And then for Grayson Rodriguez, it is also health, but it's also growth, because when he's been on in moments, then he's had to reset, and then he has to try to get back on track. When Grayson's healthy and he's had the ability to continue to learn, you're seeing him figure it out each and every time. It seemed like he made a mistake or had some bad outings, he rebounded, but the injuries slowed down his growth and progress. If he can do all that, the Orioles have some guys in-house with it. But like outside of it, you mentioned the only 2 right now that the names that have been thrown out there so much would be a Castillo or a Cease. Mm-hmm. But the more and more we get in towards spring training, the more and more I'm not believing that there's going to be a move made and you're going to roll with what you have. Could be wrong, but again, that's a part of it. As you get closer to what's going on to spring training, things could change. Now, we did see a Corbin Burns move right before spring training, so anything can happen.
Yeah.
But that's just something to keep in mind here as the days tick away and we get closer. And now that the Mariners have missed out on some other opportunities, they don't have to feel as inclined to maybe make some moves and stand pat. And we might have to wait until the season where we see some trade deadline or midseason moves.
Rip, here's not to say, who's to say that this roster can't do big things with the starting rotation they have right now. Baseball is a crazy game. You could catch lightning in a bottle. Guys get hot at the right times. Guys get healthy at the right times. Other teams get injured. And I know hindsight is 2020, and we could look back at this and say, like, stupid statement. But right now, man, like, it scares me, the rotation going into spring training, if this is the case, if they don't make a move. And again, I think it's something that needs to be done. If they don't, and this is the roster going in, it's malpractice. It is. I'll say it. It is. Like, they need to make a move. They need a front end of the rotation guy, an ace that they can add to compete with the teams in the American League. And I'm hoping that's the case. And we're talking about it and we're hype about it in the coming weeks, because it would be a great time to do so.
I don't think it would be malpractice. If the Orioles right now are built for regular season success, you need an ace when you get to the playoffs. So whether that comes before the season or at the deadline, they need to have one down the stretch. But I think with the depth that they have in the rotation, you wait to see what Grayson does. I wouldn't be disgusted by if they don't have that ace or not by opening day. They need it down the line, obviously, but it does feel like this team, with the depth and everything, they're built for the regular season right now. Regular season doesn't bother me, doesn't worry me, because of the depth they have. I think they have about 6 or 7 quality major league starters. But when, it comes down to you need to win 3 games in 3 out of 5 games, you need to have that ace. So whether it's a Sandy Alcantara at the deadline, whether it's a Cease at the deadline, whatever it may be, whether it's before the season, I agree at some point they need to make a move, but I'm not going to be waving the white flag on the rotation if they don't get the right deal done before, spring training.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Well, and right now, just to give the context of it, right? You just got to find ways to win the postseason, just like how everyone views at least what's happened with the Baltimore Ravens right now. If you are from Baltimore, hey, regular season's all fun and dandy for people, but it's going to matter what happens in the postseason. That's going to dictate how you feel about this team's year, because the expectations now have grown as a team. And right now, when we're looking at some of those lines right now, the Orioles wins over and under, brought to you by our friends over at Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Decent. Right now, but it's because it's the service. But overall, Orioles still line, despite all this, is set at 89.5 wins. So clearly Vegas still believes of where that is and where they're at. So time will tell. But the Baltimore Orioles are they're getting ready for the season. The AL East is going to be tough. I'm telling you. We'll talk more about all that baseball stuff and who my other sleeper team is in the AL as we get closer. But fellas, proud of you guys. Good kids. Any other thing that we need to do before we close this out and I give Ollie his toy back?
No, I think that, David Rubenstein, I saw him tweet something out where he just did an interview with Yahoo Finance, talking about the payroll and whatnot. And I'm sure you guys will react to it on, Ryan Ripken show tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yeah. If not, we'll talk about it next week on the Hot Stove Happy Hour, because that's what people are interested in. That's what people care about, the payroll. What the, I see the comment about disappointing offseason with a new billionaire owner. I expected a lot more. It's fair. You're allowed to have that opinion. And many people feel that way. But again, we're not in spring training. The regular season hasn't begun yet. There is still time. And it's tough to be patient. Try to remain patient. See what happens. It's tough. But hopefully they make the moves necessary, the front office, the ownership group, to put this team in the best position possible to compete for a World Series. Because damn well, I know Baltimore hasn't been there. The O's haven't been there since '83. But it is fans expect it every single year, no matter what the roster looks like. Since 2 years ago, going forward, they expect to be there. They expect to be one of the top dogs, and they're not going to take no for an answer this season. So we'll see what happens. Looking forward to baseball and getting to spring training, because it's right around the corner. But before we go, Rip, if you don't change this damn logo to have me and Zach included in Hot Stove, we're going to riot. We will protest this show, and we will not be here next week. So I will speak for Zach. Zach cannot speak for himself and say that. So it better be changed, and we better be included. So that's all I have to say.
Rocco is really the first time Rocco brought this up.
So Rocco beats me to a pregame show notes for the first time in the history of this whole thing, and now he wants to call the shots. It's unbelievable.
It was by a minute too, minute most that he beat you.
The beautiful thing, man, and they're signed.
So not only did you steal that from my car,
what a diva.
You are making demands. I think honestly, if we did a vote here, I think people would rather me get Ruck Faco shirts than have you on the actual banner.
If you get Ruck Faco shirts made, I will be the first person to wear them. That'd be
You don't
beautiful.
get to wear
I love it. Why not?
Everyone else does.
You said, first of all, the John Hancock needs some work. But, well done. Great pictures. And
This. I mean, this is we don't even need to try to do that. That's just
Yeah.
already evident. Like,
how much for the left one? I will be selling these for, let's see, what's a good price to sell Ryan Ripken vintage pictures that I just put my grubby fingers on?
Yeah, I was going to say that Rocco's just
since they're
dirty
devalued by my greasy Caesar salad eating hands, I'd say probably go for $5 to $10 a pop. So hit me up, let me know. I will be selling these. You can get them framed.
Do not hit him up.
And I will be stealing more out of Ryan's car in due time. So yes. Very nice.
yeah, I was going to offer you guys some Orioles gear, some of my own Orioles gear. So Zach, congrats. You'll get first dibs on that. I have a lot to give away. And for everyone there at the Ryan Ripken show of our community, I'll find ways to get you guys. So I got a lot of old gear that I want to kind of give away. That's actually pretty good. I think Brad was the recipient of one of those. I think Brad got one of the sweatshirts, one of the comfiest sweatshirts I've ever had. Rocco, I award you no points.
I have a game-used Ryan Ripken baseball bat that I also stole from your car. So
that wasn't from the car. That was the studio.
Well, have a lot of things.
Unbelievable. Zach, I appreciate you more with every minute and every hour. But guys, we appreciate each and every one of you. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Our Hot Stove Happy Hour, we do it for the off season. We're based out of Maryland, for those that don't know, and we are going to cover so much baseball information, from content from the day-to-day of what's happening in the Baltimore region to going down in the Maryland region and baseball over. And we're going to have some very exclusive sit-down interviews that you guys aren't going to want to miss. We have so much planned, but we're also not done with football season just yet. So hit that like and subscribe button for the Ryan Ripken Show.
Shout out to you, Jonathan. Hell yeah, W stream, damn right. Love that. Oh, I didn't mean to bring that one up.
You are such
We got a lot of content coming your guys' way. So appreciate you guys. Have a day, have a night. See you tomorrow, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern time for our full edition of the Ryan Ripken Show without Rocco DeSangro. Do. Rock 5.